It has been almost 9 months of a nonstop, um, attack, ethnic cleansing on the people of Gaza, and my mind has gone to you as someone who I admire, but also someone who is Palestinian American and who has been targeted specifically for being so, um, and who is proudly that. But I want there's so many things I wanna talk to you about, but my initial, just check-in is I know it's been so hard to reflect on this as it's ongoing.
Mhm.
So, how have you been? What are you doing to, like, fight the sadness of this moment?
I appreciate that, Fran. If you've noticed in many other times that I've organized in the last almost over 2 decades, I've been a very vocal voice. I've been outside, I've been on all the podcasts, I've been talking to the media, but there's something different this time. I find myself in perpetual grief, in perpetual, like visceral pain in my heart. Like I don't know how to articulate to people more than what they're already seeing with their own eyes. I am having a hard time being in space trying to humanize a people who are just literally like, please, like we just want freedom like everybody else. So I've had a very different personal kind of experience this last 9 months in ways that I haven't had before, although I've always organized around issues impacting marginalized people, whether it be Muslim Americans, whether it be in the racial justice movements, immigrant rights movements that I've been a part of. But there's something different for me this time. So I've kind of started coming out a little bit,
Mhm.
say, of my grief shell, that I've been, that is literally on a daily basis. Like I cannot unsee the things that I have seen in the last 9 months. I cannot, not only can I not unsee them, but I cannot find any rationale in my mind anywhere that tells me that this is something that should be happening 9 months later and that there's no one out there that can stop this genocide.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're all feeling that way, but of course, it's so much more personal when you know people in Gaza, you know the Palestinian American community here. Um, Save the Children, which notoriously, anti-Semitic, outlet. Save the Children is now saying, you know, 20,000 children might be missing in Gaza. 20,000. Now, a lot of them are hopefully alive, just have not been located. It was just alone, right? I mean, I'm like, now as a mom, that, it's unbearable. It's unbearable. Obviously 16,000 children, I think the latest estimates have been killed. That's on in the grand almost 40,000 again, which is a low number. And I think what you're saying is so right on. We've seen Joe Biden, which is a guy who very interestingly in a lot of other policy positions is receptive to criticism. 4 years ago when he was campaigning and the Bernie movement was like, "Please do this, do that, like, talk about climate change, da, da, da," like, he was receptive to some of that. And on this issue, no matter the pressure, he is a 0. I'm not saying that his administration is not receptive. We now know today, just recently, actually a Palestinian-American Air Forceman who had been in the Air Force for 22 years resigned in protest. 3 days ago, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Israeli-Palestinian Affairs, at the State Department resigned. That's on top of other State Department official resignations, alongside, like, Jewish officials in all different aspects. I think we're up to, like, about a dozen resignations now. There have been, dissent cables from the State Department to, Anthony Blinken about, "We don't agree with this policy. What is going on? Can't we use our leverage?" We're facing the fact that Biden is just a committed Zionist, man, and, like, I don't know, just give me your thoughts on that, because it is after all this many months of protests, it's like the guy is still so deaf to it and so incapable of doing anything about it.
And that's the most outrageous part of it all, Fran. It's like this is not a moment where we're getting secondhand information. Whether it be Joe Biden or any senior level officials, they can see what we see with their own eyes. They know that there is mass slaughter that is happening in Gaza. To your point about the Save the Children UK report around the 20,000 missing children, that's not including the 15,000 that we are or already know are have been slaughtered at the hands of the state of Israel. I have heard stories of people who say they walk down the streets of Gaza amongst the rubble and can still hear the cries of children under the rubble who have not been able to be rescued. We have a president who has lied on multiple occasions. He lied and said that he saw pictures of beheaded babies that he had never seen, that the White House had to walk back. This is a man who has questioned the death toll in Gaza. This is a man who has sold weapons deals to Israel during a genocide, an administration that has advocated for more funding to Israel during a genocide, and also an administration that is now in the position with Congress, literally rolling out the red carpet for Benjamin Netanyahu to do a joint address to Congress. They addressed a man with a literal arrest warrant from the ICC, His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu, and both Democratic leadership and Republican leadership signed the same letter to invite a war criminal to address our Congress during a genocide. I'm not saying that he should ever be welcome, but for God's sakes, during an active genocide where this man has humiliated our president and our administration multiple times, you are rolling the red carpet out for him. So again, the outrageousness, the callousness of it all, the double downing on it all, with the backdrop of bloodshed. I'm talking about body parts everywhere. I mean, there are videos coming out today from Gaza of literal full-fledged fires that have erupted, similar to the tent massacre that we saw in Rafah a few weeks ago. I literally see a table with literal body parts. People are picking up people's hands. Some are small hands, children's hands. Some of them are adult hands, pieces of people's feet. We're talking about things that are beyond even description that I can say here. And we still don't have an administration that is doing what we know they have in their power to get us a ceasefire. And to be really quite frank, the reason why I'm still in this place where I'm literally going out of my mind, because we're also human, Fran, and we have our own mental health issues that we have to take care of. I'm trying to understand how 80% of Democrats want a ceasefire. 60% of people, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, want a ceasefire. Who are you talking to? Who is Joe Biden talking to or trying to appease when the majority of your party, regardless of where they are telling you we want a ceasefire?
Yeah, and not only that, for an extreme right-wing government, which is the government of Israel now, and I mean, it is a very, very right-wing political, like the Knesset is incredibly far right. But you know what I'm saying? It's like everyone's pointed this out. A guy who doesn't even want him to be president. Who is literally, I think the question is, who is this for? And to your point about the kinds of things that we have seen and the horrors that the Palestinian people have been subjected to, I've never seen gaslighting like this. And I do think there is the silver lining of the gaslighting that we've all seen around this issue for so many years. That has become mainstream, meaning everyone can see. You don't have to be an expert on this issue to understand how much gaslighting is happening right now. When you're told about beheaded babies, but there's no evidence. Meanwhile, there are children with their eyeballs popping out. There's children. I mean, we all have those images. Headless, like as you said, after the attack on the refugee camp in Rafah. And every single time, okay, it's a hospital. Oh no, outrage. Oh, that was a mistake. But then it happens 5 more times. A refugee camp. Oh, that was a mistake. That's terrible. Jabalia, terrible. But then it happens 10 more times. There is no red line here. There's never been a red line here. And like, I keep on saying this because I'm not one who like, America has to be strong on the international scale. But I'm like, America needs to be a lot stronger on the international level than we are right now. And that means, obviously reining it in when our ally has gone buck wild.
That's right.
And I guess here's the final thing I was going to say is every single moment, we are told about, the child. I believe there's a few, but we're told about the stories of the children killed on October 7th, the Israeli children. And we're, their lives and their stories are sort of trotted out before us. Yet every week at this point, on October 7th happens to the people of Gaza. Every week. That's, if you do the math, it's weekly. That's how 12,000 people die. And how many children die. And it's like, if we emerge out of this genocide just globally with one understanding, it is we must humanize Muslims in this world and Palestinians specifically. I mean, it has been the most disturbing reminder of how dehumanized Palestinian life is and Palestinians are, and how colonial the mentality is when it comes to clearing them out in order to get to the next phase of selling real estate, which we'll talk about in a second.
I mean, the way the language is important, Francesca, and that's one of the things that has been demonstrated over the course of the last 9 months when it comes to Palestinians. Palestinian children die, and other children get killed. The ways in which we talk about, even things like what constitutes a Palestinian child, right? So a lot of times we will talk about, quote unquote, prisoners in Israeli prisons. We're sometimes talking about children who are 12 years old and 14 years old. And we will go across lengths to call young women. And then you look at the photo of who the young women they're talking about is, and we're talking about like 8-year-old girls, right? This similar kind of alignment and narrative around how we talk about young Black people in America, right? We will never talk about someone like a Mike Brown and say he was a child. He had just literally graduated high school.
Yep.
That this idea that we talk about a Tamir Rice was 12 years old. We literally were talking about him in the media as if he was some full-fledged grown young man, and he was not. He was a baby. He was someone's baby. And it's similarly, again, we see two different sets of languages that are applied to two different sets of people. And we have allowed it to happen over and over and over again, which if manufactures consent for things like massacres, right? When the idea is to basically make the claim that these people are human shields, that they're not actual human beings deserving of life. Somehow they became a weapon of war, or this idea that it's their fault that they live in Gaza and that Hamas is their leadership. And the way in which we allow this over and over again to continue. And it often comes from the highest echelons of power. And again, it's one of the reasons why I don't know what to say. What am I supposed to say to people? Am I supposed to say to you that my child is just as worthy as any child in this world, that those children in Gaza deserve their dreams and aspirations, that they should be able to fly kites, not in some cloudy, around drones, but they should be able to go to the beach and swim and not have to be worried about either getting slaughtered or aid dropping from the sky that crushes children in Gaza right now. I mean, the amount of outrageousness that I have seen, it has literally put me at a loss of words. I don't have words for what we are witnessing. And for 9 months, friend, like this is not something that happened last week and we're looking at this horrific week that we're experiencing. We're 9 months into a full-fledged live streamed genocide paid for by the United States of America. The state of Israel is not capable of maintaining an occupation and maintaining a siege on Gaza and engaging in this type of mass slaughter without the aiding and abetting coming from the United States government.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.